I'm Reverend J. Stuart Glover, and today you're listening to Faith Talk. Today we're reflecting on a passage of Scripture that tells a story and also brings an invitation. It's a story of encountering God, recognizing the frailty of the human condition, brokenness, receiving grace, and being sent into the world with purpose. This brief passage of Scripture is found in Isaiah, the 6th chapter, verses 1 through 8. So wherever you are, in your car, at home, or walking through life's questions, take a breath and let's listen to what the Spirit of the Lord might be speaking to us today. The scripture reads in this way: In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord, high and exalted, seated on a throne, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Above him were seraphim, each with 6 wings. With 2 wings they covered their faces, with 2 they covered their feet, and with 2 they were flying. And they were calling to one another, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. The whole earth is full of his glory. At the sound of their voices, the doorposts and thresholds shook, and the temple was filled with smoke. Woe to me, I cried, I am ruined, for I am a man of unclean lips, and I live among a people of unclean lips, and my eyes have seen the King, the Lord Almighty. Then one of the seraphim flew to me with a live coal in his hand, which he had taken from with tongs from the altar. And with it he touched my mouth and said, See, this has touched your lips. Your guilt is taken away, and your sin atoned for. Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, Whom shall I send, and who will go for us? And I said, Here am I, send me. This passage of Scripture is referred to as the call of Isaiah, the prophet. And this passage begins with a death. In the year that King Uzziah died. That phrase is more than just a date stamp. It signals a moment of national uncertainty. A good king is gone. The future is unclear. And it's in that moment that Isaiah sees the Lord. Let's not rush past that. Sometimes it's in our seasons of uncertainty and upheaval that the veil between heaven and earth gets pulled back, and God reveals himself in ways that change everything. Isaiah said, I saw the Lord, high and exalted, seated on a throne, and the train of his robe filled the temple. He also saw and heard the seraphim calling to one another, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. The whole earth is full of his glory. This glorious encounter with God was revealing and unsettling, to say the least. This vision of God caused Isaiah to immediately reflect on the holiness of God and the sinfulness of humanity. And Isaiah is undone. Woe is me, he says, I am a man of unclean lips. But the recognition of sinfulness wasn't only towards himself, but it also included the recognition of the sin of his community. He said, I live among a people of unclean lips. But here's the good news. God doesn't leave Isaiah to die in his shame. Grace enters the encounter, and a seraph flies to him carrying a burning coal from the altar and touches his lips. Your guilt is taken away. Your sin is atoned for. That's grace. That's the gospel in its prophetic form. The same God who reveals his holiness also extends his mercy. He purifies, he forgives, he restores. And then comes the call. Whom shall I send, and who will go for us? And Isaiah, once undone, guilt-ridden and ashamed, now stands redeemed. And he answers with courage, "Here am I, send me." This moment of Isaiah's transformation is not just his story. It's an invitation to us. Maybe you've seen the glory of God from afar. Maybe you've experienced a sense of sinfulness and unworthiness up close. But I want you to hear this clearly today. God is still purifying, atoning for, redeeming, sanctifying, saving through his Son. And yes, God is still calling for us to be co-laborers with God in this world. God is still sending people like you and I into the world, not because we are perfect, but because he is gracious. So what is God showing us through this passage? Well, let's ask ourselves some relevant questions, perhaps a moment of self-reflection. Are you in a moment of transition or uncertainty? Are you in a space where you sense and are attentive to the presence of God in your life? Are you, by the grace of God, seeing things within you that are keeping you from being your most authentic self, keeping you from aligning yourself and yielding yourself to God's transformational power? Are you in that space? Or maybe you're hearing the voice of the Lord saying, "Whom shall I send?" I invite you to respond in a similar way, encourage you in a similar way to what Isaiah did, which was to surrender to yielding himself with an open heart to the will of God for his life and experiencing the transformational power of God. I'm Reverend J. Stuart Glover. You've been listening to Faith Talk. Thank you for joining me. These episodes are available on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, and other podcast platforms. If today's reflection spoke to your heart, I encourage you to share it with someone who might need a word of hope and encouragement. Until next time, keep your eyes on the Lord, your heart open to his call, and your feet ready to follow wherever he leads. God bless you. See you next time.